العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. Anything that is not pertaining to the topic of marriage won't be answered. However, everything that is, as long as we're able to answer it, I'll answer it, inshaAllah ta'ala. The first question from the brother's side is, where do I find a righteous wife? That's the $1 million question. Everyone wants to know. I can't tell you a specific place, but in general, how you find a righteous wife, or how and where do you find? You as a brother, if you're looking for a sister who is righteous, you would have to ask. So there wouldn't be any way for you to really know a specific sister, whether she's righteous or not. If you belong to a particular community, like a masjid, for example, and there are brothers who have either wives or sisters who attend the same masjid, then they can let you know if there are any sisters who are single, who may be seeking marriage and who they deem to be righteous sisters. And in reality, we say this often, but there is from what I find, a huge neglect in terms of brothers and sisters assisting one another in this way. And from what I gather and what I find is that no one wants to be responsible in case that marriage fails. Nobody wants to recommend someone and then they end up being a monster, right? A sister doesn't want to recommend another sister, and a brother doesn't want to recommend another brother, or even a brother recommending a sister to another brother, and then if they end up not working out, their relationship might get ruined. But in reality, that shouldn't be the case, because anyone who would recommend someone is only recommending them based on the apparent. No one can ever tell you about the hidden of another person. You will not be able to tell someone about your own blood brother. If someone who you were raised with in the same household and you know them inside out, but in reality, even him you don't know, what's hidden. So, in general, how we should take any recommendation for marriage is that from what is apparent from this person, this is what I see from them. And then anything further than that, that is up to you to find out. That is up to you to ask, the key questions about what you want to find out about, and look at the signs and all of these things. And inshallah, tomorrow we'll learn about that. Tomorrow there is a specific lecture dedicated to that, how to select a spouse. And I'm going to be discussing the questions that you ask. What answers are you looking for? When you get certain answers, how should you react? And all of that. The entire method on how you can narrow down whether this person is good for you or not. Allah Ta'ala, and I'll discuss it to the best from both sides, from the sister side who's seeking a brother, and from the brother side who's seeking a sister. And so in general, the way you would find a sister or a brother, because there is a sister, subhanAllah, it ended up being, and the sister's first question was the same question. So the sister's first question says, how can single Muslim women find a pious spouse? So it's pretty much the same question. And that is usually in the masajid. If for a sister seeking a brother, if the brother is someone who's frequenting the masjid, from what is apparent from that person, you see that he's religious, practicing, that he surrounds himself with religious people, that he's known at the masjid, not that he just attends and that's it, but he's actually known in the community. People speak well of him in the community. And you can find that out if you are a sister by asking sisters if they know of a brother. So this can happen in more than one way. It can happen that you hear of a brother and you want to know more information about him, or you don't know any particular brother, you just want to find someone who is pious from what is apparent. And so then you would ask if there are sisters who have either like a brother or a husband who's on the brother side. and to find out the brothers who are single, or to go directly to the administration of a masjid, directly to the administration of the masjid and say, I'm a sister who's seeking marriage, or I'm a brother who's seeking marriage, and this is what I'm looking for. Do you know of any sisters who are fit this, basically, these requirements or these things that I'm looking for, and likewise to the sisters. And that it should be something that a community should provide, a masjid or an imam or and the like, that is something that they should constantly help the youth with. That is from the purposes also of having a masjid in a community. It's not just to pray 5 times a day and everyone goes home. It is building a community, and from that is to help the youth that are in the community to get married. Or else, where else are they going to go? Or else, where else are they going to go? The question from the sister side states, when a potential Muslim brother is interested in marriage, but he is a divorcee, what are the things he should be sharing or I should be asking? So the things that he should be sharing, to be honest, is up to him. He would not know what it is that is a requirement for you to know. So it will all depend on the sister. Some sisters would not mind knowing certain things or not knowing certain things, and others do. So it would be the responsibility of the sister who is marrying this brother, whether he is a divorcee or otherwise, to ask the questions that are important to her. Meaning, if she has certain things that she does not want, then she should ask about those things. She should ask directly about those things. She shouldn't wait to see if he will voluntarily share that, because he has no idea what is important to you to know or not. He has no idea of that, and every sister is different when it comes to that. So it would be important for you to ask the things that are important for you specifically. I wouldn't be able to tell you also what you should be asking. It goes back to you as the sister who is seeking a brother in marriage who is a divorcee. If, for example, you don't want a brother who you wouldn't mind marrying a brother who has divorced before, but he has children. So if you yourself don't want to marry someone who has children from a previous marriage, then it's your responsibility to ask, do you have children? Or you may have a limit. If he has 1 child, you don't mind. But if he has 2 or more, then you mind. So you shouldn't be the one asking that. He would not know that is a deal breaker for you. He would not know that. And later on, if it comes out and you didn't ask, then he shouldn't be blamed either. To say that you hid this from me or you hid that from me. That is your responsibility to ask about anything that is a deal breaker for you. The brother asks, do I need my parents' permission for marriage? So if you mean by permission in the way that a sister needs her father as her wali to give you away in marriage, then of course not. You don't need that as a man. However, getting married, it should be something you discuss with your parents. And if they have a legitimate reason, meaning a legislated reason as to why you should not marry in this particular time, for example, they believe about you that maybe you're not mature enough, or that you need some growing to do and learning responsibilities and the like, that they see from you that you would not be ready for marriage. And if they are accurate in that assessment, then you would obey them in that. But if they are making it difficult for you, in terms of marriage and there's no actual reason, then my advice would be not to simply just go marry, even though your parents are not approving of it, because then you break the ties of kinship, but that you maybe get someone who is more respected, an elder in the community or someone who can speak on your behalf to your parents. Maybe invite them to the house, and maybe they can advise them and convince them to facilitate and make marriage easy for you. And Allah knows best. This question from the sister side is, what should I do if I completely do not want polygamy, but the man refuses to write it in a contract? In reality, that is his right. If he were to agree to that, then he would have to fulfill that condition. So if the man wishes to practice polygamy, but the sister that he wants to marry does not want that to happen, then in reality, then that means that they won't get married. It's really as simple as that. One will have to give up their right. Either the sister will have to, leave off that condition, or he will have to agree to it, even though he's not pleased with it. And then that is also not wise. That is also not wise. And I also don't advise, if a sister believes that she cannot handle polygamy, that it's from that angle, that she's extremely jealous, or whatever the case is, and she knows that she will not be a good wife, or whatever the case is, if her husband takes on a second wife, then I would not advise her to settle and marry a brother just because she believes maybe she won't find someone better than him, or whatever she tries to convince herself of. I would not advise that she does it, and then later on down the road she becomes upset if he does marry a second wife, and then she wants divorce. And then you have children and all these things happen. So I would suggest you avoid it altogether. And you marry a brother who may not want a second wife, or does not have a desire to marry a second wife. Number two, I'm not sure if this is the same sister or different sisters, but advice on how to get my mother to come to my wedding and accept it. Well, it's kind of vague. It's a general question, so I'll just answer it in a general way. But if the reason for her not wanting to attend is a legitimate reason, then the mother is not who needs advice. You're the one who needs advice. If your mother is refusing to attend this wedding, accept the fact that you're getting married because of something legitimate, meaning something based on deen, or that there's a shara'i reason why she's not attending. For example, that the man that you are marrying is not practicing whatsoever, has no deen, and you are forcing to marry to him, then she is not the one that needs advice. You are the one that needs advice. However, if it's that she simply does not want to attend for other reasons that are not legislated, then my advice would be for you to be kind to her, for you to not give up trying to convince her, for you to try to maybe get someone from the community or other ladies in the community who she may respect or she's maybe related to and the like, and try every means possible to convince her. Try every means to convince her, and also in general show her kindness and serve her as your mother, and do things for her that you may not normally do, and try to soften her heart towards you, so that she in the end accepts that she attends your wedding, bi'idhnillah, and ask Allah to make it easy for you. Advice on how to stay away from temptation, desires, and make waiting easier and faster while waiting for my nikah day. So it seems from this question that you are someone who is in the process of getting married, so soon to be married. My advice would be that if you are in communication with the brother and the like, then avoid that. Avoid that to the best of your ability. If that is causing you temptation and desires and the like, to avoid that. Also to busy yourself with khair. Busy yourself with attending the masjid, attending conferences, attending weekly classes, keeping good friendship with sisters that will help you remember Allah. Avoid seclusion for long periods of time without necessity. All of these, take these means in order to avoid falling into any type of sin. So if you see from yourself that you are weak in certain circumstances, for example in seclusion, where shaitan really works on the individual and whispers to them, then avoid being in seclusion to the best of your ability. Before going to sleep, turn off your phone. And then make sure you take these means in order to protect yourself from falling into that which earns the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Question from the brother side. I believe from the brother side. Yeah, it is from the brother side. From the question. Assalamu alaikum, ya akhi. Wa alaikum assalam, ya akhi. What are some boundaries to set before marriage? To be honest, I don't know what boundaries that would be. If the questioner means, what are some boundaries to set before marriage, meaning boundaries that you want to set for marriage, meaning once you marry this sister. So once you marry this sister, there are certain boundaries that you want that her to abide by, for example. That would be as simple as making those boundaries clear. You would have to, for example, if there are things that are in our deen. For example, the woman seeking permission from her husband before she leaves the house. This stuff is in our deen, but many who get married don't know their deen. Many who get married, the brother himself doesn't know that that's from his rights, let alone the sister doing it. The brother himself does not know that his wife should ask his permission before going. And so some brothers will get married, never asking his wife where she's going and where she's coming from. And then 5-10 years down the line, he learns this part of the deen, and now he starts applying it. And then she says, where did this come from? And then it causes a clash. So you learn your deen and learn what are your rights as a husband and your responsibilities. Because yes, it is your right that your wife should ask you permission before leaving the house. However, it is also your responsibility. The reason why she's asking you is because you're responsible for her. You are responsible for her. And so that is the reason for it. It's not just because you're flexing your authority. That's not the purpose of this. It's because you're responsible for her, and that is why she asks you permission to leave the house. Likewise, for those who enter your home that you are not pleased with, people that you do not want to enter your home, that she should ask you permission before she does so, or invites people into your home and the like. So, and this, we can mention a bunch of things and it would be an entire lecture if we were to mention what boundaries to set. But the more accurate advice would be, number one, for you to learn your deen in terms of the duties and responsibilities of a husband and of a wife, so that you make sure that the sister that you are marrying is okay and is in agreement with abiding by these things that we find in our deen. And that number two, that you yourself know what it is that you dislike. You have to know yourself. Don't just list off a bunch of things that you just memorized from somewhere or you read it on Google. Right? You know yourself and what you don't like and what you do not tolerate and cannot tolerate. And the same goes for sisters. Certain things that they cannot tolerate and they do not want to be married to someone who either does that or does not do certain things. These things have to be mentioned before marriage. These things have to be mentioned before marriage. And the second part of the question is, what if the background check doesn't clear? I have no idea what that means. Inshallah, try another background check, I guess. The sister's question. The first part of the question is, according to the Hanafi madhab, a woman can get married without the permission of her wali. Is this opinion valid? Alhamdulillah, we're Shafi'is, I believe. Somalia. This opinion is not valid. The opinion of Abu Hanifa or the Ahnaf with regards to the woman being able to marry without a legal guardian, without her father, without his permission, or without him giving her away, that is not valid. And the wisdom behind her having a guardian is so that the father can vet this person. so that she doesn't just throw herself into destruction. That men know men. So when you go through your father or your elder brother or a male relative of yours, whoever is your wali, they will be able to determine if this is a suitable person for you to marry. Usually for sisters, they may have emotional attachments and things like that, so their judgment won't be clear. But when you have a father who is going to vet him and spend time with that individual and get to know him, to see if he is someone who he should give his daughter to, this is a means of protection for the sister. And she should not go around that. She should not go around that. And the second part of the question is, this is in the case where the wali refuses the marriage for a wrong reason. Example, tribe. So in the Muslim countries, what a sister would do is she would go to the Islamic courts. For example, in Saudi Arabia, she would go to the Islamic courts, and they would bring the father, and they would ask him for his reasons why he's preventing his daughter from getting married. And if then the judge then deems that his reasoning is invalid, then they will take the wilaya from him. They will take the guardianship from him, and they will marry her to the person that she wants to marry. However, in our situation now, where we don't live in lands where there are Islamic courts and Islamic judges, what you do is you go to the local imam or those who are in charge of the da'wah in your locality to bring your father to them, or you have them go to him to advise him and to convince him. And don't believe that one time or even twice or 3 times is enough. Keep doing so. Keep trying your utmost best. And that they should tell him to fear Allah. And from the things that we mentioned in the lecture, that them preventing their children in this manner is causing great harm. Is causing great harm. And so, inshallah ta'ala, after that, they would accept. However, getting married without the wali, then this happens even from the sister's side. That if she meets a brother and she's not attracted to him, then she does not know how to end the situation. How do you end the situation? My advice to brothers would be that you find out about how a sister looks like before you even find out anything. From the opinion of Imam Ahmed, rahimahullah, was that you find out about the beauty of a woman before even asking about her deen or anything like that. Because if you were to ask about her deen and everything checks out, and then you find out about her looks, and then you don't want to marry her anymore, then you would have rejected her for dunya, and you would have left deen. You would have left deen. She's a religious woman and would have been good for you religious-wise, but you ignored that, and you made the focal point of marriage looks. But if you find out about her looks first, and you're not attractive, then you don't know about her deen. And so you would have simply, left the situation based on looks, and that's it. So you didn't learn about her deen first, and then say, oh, even though she's religious, I still don't want her, which is a problem. So my advice would be that instead of you going to the house and seeing how she looks, and then right after that sending a text message, sister, I'm sorry, I'm not attracted to you. How's that? Instead of doing that, find out about how she looks through other sisters. If you have a sister, if you have a cousin, if you have a female relative, or if you know brothers who do have female relatives or wives, ask them about how the sister looks ahead of time. Find out about her ahead of time, and you know your preference, so mention exactly what you're looking for. And all from the bab of adab and amana, from the bab of having good character and good akhlaq, is that the way that you should ask is that you should say, this is the type of sister that I'm attracted to. You tell the brother, or you tell one of your female relatives, and then all she has to tell you is, she is not that. She does not need to describe the sister to you. She does not tell you that she has a big nose and long ears or anything like that. She doesn't have to describe the sister at all for the sake of preserving her honor. So she should just say, okay, what you're looking for, this sister is not that. Simple. That way, there's nothing disrespectful happens to the sister, and no problem happens. And that's the same thing for the sisters when they're seeking a brother. Same thing when they are. If I get married and the man turns out not as he seemed, does not speak nicely to me, and gets angry, annoyed easily, is it a good reason for divorce? I would not say that that's a good reason for divorce. However, that brother doesn't need advice. If it is true, as you've mentioned, then what I would say is try to speak to him kindly and remind him of the akhlaq of the Prophet ﷺ, and that this is how the Prophet was, and this is how he addressed his wives, and how he spoke, and how he was with his companions, etc. Show him a hadith that talks about good character and the like. And if that doesn't work, then try to get someone to advise him, etc. Try many different things. What are the necessary things you need to get married? We mentioned in the hadith, يا معشر الشباب من استطاع منكم الباءة فليتزوج. O youth, whoever from amongst you has the physical capability, meaning is able to and have intercourse, and capability from the angle of providing, then get married. There's nothing more than that. If you're able to provide, you're able to pay bills, you're able to take care of a wife, then you get married. And that does not mean that if you're poor or that you don't have much, that it means that you don't get married. That that there's a certain amount of money that you have to first save before you get married. 10K, 20K, 30K, 50K, some people, before you get married. Some of the Sahaba were poor. All they had was an iron ring. Some of the Sahaba gave shoes as dowry, and that's what they married based on. Some gave what they knew from the Quran because they had nothing else to give as mahar. So how we understand capability is in accordance with the times that we are living in, of course. That with the bare minimum, that if you're able to provide a home for a sister and you're able to do that, and then build, and inshallah Allah gives you rizq after that, because the marriage, from the benefits that we could have mentioned in the previous lecture, but the virtues of marriage, from its benefits, is that it increases one's rizq. So as long as the sister is content with whatever you are able to provide, then you get married. If your husband works around women and deals in business with them, and you advise him and he gets annoyed and he doesn't take the advice, what do you do? What I would suggest is that both of you speak to someone of knowledge in the community, and he mentions his side and you mention your side. And you get, because answering a question like this without knowing any details, it doesn't, the answer will not be correct. The answer won't be accurate. I would need to know the details. What kind of job is it? Is it a job that he has no choice but to mix with women, like a doctor, for example? Imagine I answer this question now and say, brother, fear Allah, quit your job. Without knowing the full details. So my advice would be to mention the full details to someone of knowledge, and then when they deem that yes, this is a job that he shouldn't be doing, etc., then he can be properly advised. And in the meantime, I would say to the sister, to be patient, to be patient. How much money or wealth do I need before I get married? Is there a required amount? There is no required amount, as we mentioned. What is required is only that you are able to pay the bills, basically. You are able to provide. You are able to provide whatever is needed to live a comfortable and proper life. How do I convince her to let me get another wife? When you find out, let us know. There's no such thing as convincing, akhi. There's no such thing. Wallahi, other than speaking to her over and over again, there's not much there's no secret, ingredient to that one. I'm sure if even the ulama knew, they would have told us what to say and what to do when it comes to that topic. But that is something that, obviously, it is difficult, the nature of women. And don't be surprised, because this existed even in the Sahabiyat, even amongst the Sahabiyat. Look at Surah Al-Tahrim, the beginning verses of Surah Al-Tahrim. Read the tafsir of the beginning verses of Surah Al-Tahrim, and see how the wives of the Prophet ﷺ behaved. And you will see it's the nature of women, that especially if they love their husband, that they don't want to share their husband. It's their nature. That's a nature. You won't be able to change that nature. However, if you are in a situation where you believe it's dire and you do need, a second wife, then I would suggest you try your best to be as kind as possible to her and take her on a vacation, take her to Umrah or something. Tell her in the clock tower somewhere with the Kaaba view. There's not much else I can tell you, akhi, barakallahu feek. And if you're successful in it, then inform the rest of the brothers, inshallah. What if you feel like marriage will make things a burden for you? Na'am, everything is a burden. Salah is a burden. Fasting in Ramadan is a burden. But does it mean that you don't do it? Meaning that it requires effort, not a burden as in you dislike it. A burden in terms of it requires effort. It requires striving. Everything that is khair requires striving and some effort. Doing Hajj is very burdensome. But you still do it, and it's still wajib upon us for those who are capable. So yes, marriage has its burdens, it has its difficulties, but you focus on the benefits. You focus on the benefits, and definitely the benefits outweigh greatly any burden that you would get from a marriage. And the burden usually is if you have uncles, any male relative will do. Any male relative, especially that knows you and knows you from young, etc., that would look out for your best interest. That is what is key. So if your father is not in your picture, I don't know what that necessarily means. Does it mean that you have no idea where he is? You have no way of contacting him? Because if you do marry, then he is still the one that is responsible for you and is to give you away in marriage, or at least would have to be contacted to give that guardianship to someone else if he is not the one that's going to do it. So I'm not sure exactly if it means that you do know where he is but you don't have a relationship with him, or that if it means that you just have no communication with him and you have no idea where he is in the world. But nonetheless, someone who knows you and would look out for your best interest, that is who I would introduce the brother to, because then that person can speak on your behalf and will look out for your best interest. If the brother is good for you, then he'll be honest. If the person is, if the brother is bad for you also, he will also likewise be honest. How to approach This question is similar to the one before. It kind of goes along the same topic, but it's a bit different. How to approach potential, meaning a potential brother, I'm assuming, I'm interested in, but don't have a mahram or male wali, also too shy. What I would suggest is, if there is a sister that you are friends with that has either a husband or a sister that you're friends with who it could be her brother or whatever the case is, that you go through them to basically make your interest known. Make your interest known. Where do you find a wife? I think we answered one similar to that already. There's some questions that were sent via message. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. ماذا تنصح للشباب والشابات الذين يتأخرون الزواج بسبب الدراسة؟ وهل هذا صحيح مع كثرة الفتن في هذا الزمان وفي هذا البلاد؟ What do you advise the youth, those who delay marriage due to studies? And is this correct with all of the fitan in this time and in this land or in these countries? My advice would be for them to not delay marriage. As long as there's a capability of marriage, studying and being in university is not a reason to delay marriage. And also this is regarding the parents, because most times what you find is that the parents are the obstacle. The youth who are in university would want to get married and do, see the fitan and things like that are around them. But the parents are, have this belief that if they get married, she could possibly get pregnant, and then they won't, continue with their studies, etc., etc. If, however, when you as a parent are weighing between the harms and the benefits, let's say for argument's sake they do lose their university, but you preserved their deen, you preserved their chastity, they didn't fall into haram. As opposed to if you say, okay, let them get their degree, but at what cost? At what cost? You rather your child fall into zina and fall into sins, years and years of sins, just for a degree? Just for a degree? And then when they get that degree, then what? Where is their deen now? Where is their deen? There's a narration of Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma where he mentions that the one who falls into fornication, Allah snatches iman from his heart. Snatches iman from that person's heart. So the danger is in delaying marriage. You can delay university, but delaying marriage is the calamity, especially in this time. So what is required from parents today is to feel that hardship of their children, and that they should make it easy. If they believe that the worry is that they will, the girl will get pregnant and the sister will get pregnant, etc., and it's going to delay their studies. So what if it delays their studies? And instead of complaining about it and harming your children by delaying marriage further, why don't you help them? Why don't you help them and support them with your wealth and in your home and whatever way that you're able to support them, support them. Why choose to make them suffer just because of a degree, just because of a university degree? And for those who do want to get married and they're in their studies and they are of the opinion that they should delay and wait and etc., but they are falling into sins, I mentioned in the first lecture that delaying marriage without a legislated reason is a sin. You are sinning, especially if you are falling into sin and you are struggling with lowering your gaze, etc. That it is not permissible for you to delay marriage. It is not permissible for you to delay marriage. بعض البنات يؤخرن الزواج بسبب البحث عن رجل ذي مال وثروة. هل هذا صحيح؟ بارك الله فيكم. Some sisters are delaying marriage because they are seeking a brother with a lot of money and like a high reputation or status. Is this correct? That is incorrect. That is incorrect because, sister, if you marry a brother with a lot of money, that does not mean he's going to fear Allah with regards to you. That does not mean that he is going to fear Allah with regards to you. It means that you may live comfortably, yes, but it does not mean that that individual will fear Allah when it comes to your honor and you as your rights as a wife. And so marrying for the sake of money is not something that is advised. Is not something that is advised. ماذا تنصح لمن يتزوج غير المسلمين؟ الله المستعان. Well, hopefully this means that this is a man. You know? The question is, what do you advise those who marry non-Muslims? So if a Muslim man marries a woman from the people of the book, as long with the condition that she is a chaste woman, meaning a woman that was not committing zina and is not known for that, then it is permissible. However, I would not recommend that, especially in the times that we live in, because how rare is it that you will even find a woman in this time like that actually practices Christianity or Judaism, and then if you're going to do, how many of our sisters are there for you to go to non-Muslims? Imagine leaving a practicing sister upon the Sunnah, covers, wants to fear Allah, and then you marry a Christian. With what intellect are you doing that? The danger, you are not looking at the danger of her affecting your children later on. Let's say the two of you divorce, now she takes your kids, now what? And how many cases like this exist? Your kids are now going to become Christians. Your children will now become Christians. So my advice would be to stay far away from that, especially in these times that we live in. Stay very far away from that. And we have a lot of khair in our sisters that are available for marriage. The next question clarifies what was meant by the first one. ماذا تنصح لمن يتزوج غير المسلمين من الرجال والنساء? So sisters also marrying non-Muslims. والعياذ بالله. A sister is not allowed to marry a non-Muslim. If a sister marries a non-Muslim, that nikah is invalid. That nikah is invalid, and whatever happens afterwards is zina. And any children who come out of that quote-unquote marriage that never actually happened are children that were born out of zina. They're children that are born out of zina. So my advice would be to fear Allah, sisters, and to, subhanAllah, turn back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in repentance. That is not something that you should play with regards to your deen, especially for sisters, because the authority in relationships is with the man. And if the man is a non-Muslim, then that is what your children are going to be. That is what your children are going to be. ماذا تنصح لمن يشترط الزواج بشروط كثيرة ربما لا توجد من شخص من مال وجمال وكذا وكذا? What do you advise for the one who makes so many conditions in a marriage to the point where you may not even find this in any individual? This person doesn't even exist that has all of these inequalities, from wealth, from beauty, etc., etc. And in reality, this is from the Western culture that we talked about, and its detrimental effects on marriage. That it puts in the mind of sisters certain things that they should be looking for, and it puts in the mind of brothers certain things that they should be attracted to and looking for. And now we adopt those ways, and we think these are the things that have value. These are the things that will help us attain happiness in our marriages. And so then we seek it. This is not stuff that we just came up on our own. We went away from that which our deen teaches us, and we started adopting the ways of the kuffar in who we are seeking. And so we have a particular individual, like a stick man, and that is who we have to have. So any brother who we come in contact with has to match that. If he doesn't match that, then we don't want to marry him. That way you will never get married. And that is actually the agenda of the enemies of Islam. That is why they want you to think like that, so you never even marry at all. You never even marry in the end. ماذا تنصح لمن تزوج عن وقت قريب لكي يدوم زواجهم بإذن الله? What do you advise those who married recently so that their marriage lasts بإذن الله? My advice would be for the two of you to be patient with one another, for the two of you to not see marriage as if it is some sort of business where each one is only looking at their interest. You know, the sister is in the marriage looking for what he can do for me. And if he is not doing such and such for me, then I'm not doing anything for him. And the brother is looking at, if she doesn't do such and such, then I'm not. They're already at war at the beginning of the marriage. Know that marriage is a union and has all these benefits that we mentioned in the previous lecture. That all of this khayr that exists. Learn about those things. Learn about the great reward in marriage so that you value your marriage. Learn together. Now that you are married, learn together. Go to classes together. Learn your deen together. That will 100% make your relationship better. Likewise, be patient, especially in the beginning of marriage where shaitan is going to work overtime to cause you to believe that, oh, you made a mistake. Oh, to the sister, shaitan is going to whisper, oh, there was another brother that, subhanAllah, I should have married him. He was like this and he was like that. This guy, he doesn't do this, he doesn't do that. He doesn't talk to me like the other one did. Or, the shaitan will come to you and make you believe that the decision you made was not the right one. That you had something better previously. These are all from the tactics of shaitan. Same thing with the brother. If she just raises her voice a little bit, a'udhu billah, this is the sister that the ulama warned against. Shaitan's going to come to you like that. This is the sister that the ulama said don't even marry. From the 7 types of women that you should never marry, this is one of them. So how can she speak to me like this? And all of this is because you don't know the nature of woman, and she could have been, something was affecting her that day emotionally or whatever the case is. So you have to be patient. As a man, don't react emotionally all the time. You're a man. You can't have 2 women in the relationship, right? You can't have 2 people reacting on emotion. That relationship's not going to last. That relationship is not going to last. And as a brother, you have to be able to distinguish between a bad woman and a woman who has in her nature these slips. As the Prophet ﷺ, a woman is a bent rib, a crooked rib. And if you try to straighten her, then it breaks. And that breaking is divorce. That the nature of the rib is that it is crooked. It comes crooked. Our ribs are not straight. If you straighten it, it's going to break. And that's the Prophet ﷺ, the analogy he gave when it comes to women. That she has these flaws in her nature. Is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created her. We have example of the sahabiyat. I mentioned to you about Surah Al-Tahrim. That the sahabiyat conspired with regards to the Prophet ﷺ. And he had honey. He would eat honey at one of his wives' houses. And then Aisha and Hafsa, and they conspired to say that every time he comes to your house, say, what is this awful smell? You smell horrible. And so when he kept hearing it from each one of them, then he said, it's the honey that he had. And all they were just jealous because he was having the honey there. That's what they wanted. That was their goal. So these are the sahabiyat, the nature of their jealousy. Aisha radiallahu anha, when the Prophet ﷺ had guests at his house one time, a dish was brought from one of the other wives. And she saw it in front of the men. In front of his guests, she smacked the dish and it broke. Did the Prophet ﷺ hit her? Did he cuss her out? Did he say anything bad about her? Imagine you in your living room and you have brothers visiting you, and your wife comes in the middle of all the brothers and takes the plate that you guys have in front of you and breaks it in front of you. Who from amongst you is not going to divorce their wife in that moment? Her simply walking there is divorce. So, forget the plate. Her standing here is divorce in this time. So, the Prophet ﷺ laughed and he said, eat. Eat. He told the brothers, eat, the men, the guests, eat, for your mother has become jealous. That is it. But today, if you behave like the Prophet, what are you? A simp. Sah? A simp. He has no manhood. He has no manhood. How can he let a woman deal with him like that? Tayyib, whose example do we take? The man who was sent as rahmatan lil alamin, a mercy for everyone. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You have to be able to distinguish between something that happened as a mishap or due to an event that was the nature of a woman. The good woman will come back and apologize after, and she will be regretful afterwards, and she will apologize to you and try to make it up to you. The bad woman is the one that does not care. She'll do that and she'll say to you, and what? What are you going to do about it? Come fight me. Alright? So you have to be able to distinguish between a good woman and a woman who at times behaves in a way that is from her nature. At times you get a sharp tongue, at times this and that. But if she is a good woman, she will regret that she did that. She will regret that she did that. So don't make the mistake to divorce a woman thinking that this behavior that she showed in this moment is a sign of a bad woman. Don't do that. Because if that was the case, then you yourself would be deserving to. Because you're not flawless. You as a husband are not sinless or flawless or lack any error or any faults. So we'll conclude there. That is the last question that we had. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make that which was mentioned beneficial, and anything of khayr that I mentioned, that it is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and anything of error that I mentioned, that is from myself and shaitan. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to return tomorrow to continue with these important lessons. And tomorrow, inshallah, I believe the brothers and sisters will enjoy, as it is going to be a practical, more of a practical lecture, as pertaining to how to select a spouse, and how exactly do you select a spouse, and what do you ask and what do you look for in a very practical way, And the other lecture will be how to prepare for marriage. What do you do as a brother in preparation for marriage? What are the things that you have to do in an actual practical way? And likewise, as a sister, how do you prepare for marriage in terms of being a mother, in terms of being a wife? What are things that you have to learn about men before you marry? What are things that brothers have to learn about women before they marry? And the like. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.